Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. Did Larry King purposely write his estranged wife out of his will before his death? A Louisiana inmate convicted of attempting to rape two 14-year-old girls in 1977 claims new evidence could exonerate him.
These are things that no one has ever had before.
Charges dropped for the so-called Central Park Karen after Amy Cooper completes a counseling program. Plus, a son testifies about his mother's disappearance and presumed death.
She was my best friend as well as my mother.
Was Victoria Prokopovitz murdered by her own husband? Law and Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmeyer along with Terry Austin. Wife of legendary TV host Larry King is reportedly planning to contest his will in court. Larry King died on January 23rd at the age of 87. According to reports, King filed a handwritten amendment to his will in October 2019, leaving his $2 million estate to his 5 children. The note excluded his wife of 22 years, Shawn King. The couple had filed for divorce just months earlier and were estranged. Tragically, 2 of King's adult children died within 3 weeks of each other last year. Shawn King now wants to take her claims to court, telling the New York Post page 6 that they drew up an estate plan together in 2015 and believes someone might have pressured him to write the amendment. She also claims the two recently became reconnected, talking every day before his passing. King was interviewed by Law and Crime host Jesse Weber in 2018.
I try to ask good questions and elicit good answers. The number one thing in interviewing is listening. You have to listen, and then you have to be able to respond to what they've said. Take it all in. It's so wonderful. It beats work.
Terry, amended will months after a divorce kind of makes sense to I think most of us, but how the will was done or amended, that could be the issue, right?
Well, it's absolutely an issue. If you have a will that in 2015 was typed out, it was witnessed, it was executed, and then you do a handwritten amendment, that's not good enough. It would be one thing if he tore up the original will and completely changed it in handwriting. But this little handwritten amendment, I don't think is going to prevail. And I think just equitably, she has a good claim because she basically, supported him all this time and contributed to his businesses.
Yeah, of course, we'll keep an eye on that, looking at the form of how that amendment was done. Was it certified? Did someone observe it as a witness? All things that have to be answered. Thank you very much, Terry. Now to Louisiana, where an inmate says he was convicted decades ago of trying to rape 2 sisters based on a lie, and he wants the prosecutor removed from the case. Angenette Levy is here with Vincent Simmons' story.
Yeah, Brian, Vincent Simmons is he's serving a 100-year prison sentence for the attempted aggravated rape of twin sisters. He says he is innocent and the victim of racism and people who lied to put him in prison.
This is a lie.
Attorney Justin Bonus represents Vincent Simmons, who's been in prison for nearly 45 years for the attempted aggravated rapes of 14-year-old twin sisters.
Vincent didn't get any discovery, really, of substance in 1977. So he tried this case with his lawyers blindly.
Simmons's case has been featured in 3 documentaries, including the 1999 film, The Farm, Angola, USA, in which the Sanders sisters testified at a parole hearing.
In the past 20 years, the only comfort that we've had was to know that he could not hurt us or our family or someone else.
You committed these 2 rapes?
No, sir.
What'd you say?
No, sir.
Bonus has filed this 346-page motion that includes exhibits. He outlines why he believes Simmons is innocent. It includes photos from a police lineup Bonus says was faulty because it showed Simmons in handcuffs.
If their ID is wrong, then Vincent didn't do this, right? This is a stranger identification. They didn't know him.
Meanwhile, Simmons says a man named Keith Laborde, a cousin of the Sanders sisters, admitted to a family member that he actually had consensual sex with one of the girls and lied at trial.
The Laborde name, if you understand it in Louisiana, this is a prominent family. There's many Labordes.
Attorney Justin Bonus claims that the prosecutor in the case actually told someone in the community that the evidence for Simmons to represent himself properly at trial was not turned over. But that prosecutor, Charles Riddle, said in a court filing that that's not the case. He didn't say that, and that Simmons's new claims of new evidence are not actually new at all, that he's raised all of these issues before. That prosecutor Riddle was expected to testify at a hearing this week, but that hearing is expected to be postponed because of a big snowstorm that hit the area. Brian?
Thanks, Angenette. Joining us to help break down this case is criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy and Terry Austin. Eklund, Brady violations, how bad are they and how much could they affect this case?
Oh my God, a Brady violation is like a draw for of all criminal trials. If you have a Brady violation and it's a substantial one, it's a problem. The issue is we have these prosecutors who go rogue, and especially if you have a pro se, even if you have a pro se defendant, you have to give all your evidence. You have all the cards. You have to give. It's constitutional. You have to give all the evidence. And we have these prosecutors who are all about catching this one defendant, and they're not really doing their jobs, which is being ministers of justice for all, including the defendant. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Terry, thanks, Eklund. In order to get to that point, though, there's got to be some sort of hearing, like Angenette mentioned, where the prosecutor could actually take the stand. How do you see that playing out?
Well, you know, in a Brady hearing, if the prosecution does take the stand, that's the last place you want to be. You don't want to be on a witness stand trying to defend your actions, trying to explain whether or not you did provide all of the necessary information. So hopefully the hearing will go well for him, and if not, maybe he will have to recuse himself from the case.
Now, Angenette, what do the Sanders sister and Keith Laborde say about this?
Well, Brian, that's funny you mentioned that, because I actually contacted both of the Sanders sisters. They have not returned my messages so far, but they have stood by their story in the past. And I also called Keith Laborde's home today, and a man answered the phone. He actually said that he was a friend of Keith Laborde and wouldn't let me speak with Laborde. This gentleman said that Vincent Simmons is guilty and that he should hang. He said all kinds of things saying that he believed he was guilty, but he would not do an interview with me, and he would not let me speak with Keith Laborde.
All right, so it's going to be interesting. The next thing, Angenette, real quickly, we're going to wait for this hearing where this prosecutor is going to take the stand. Is that the next step in this case, to seeing how it unravels?
Yeah, I mean, we have to wait and see what happens, because the hearing is going to be postponed because of this big snowstorm that hit the area. They can't transfer or transport Vincent Simmons from the prison to the courthouse because of the snowstorm. They're not used to getting this much snow there. So we really have to wait and see what happens. The prosecutor is maintaining that he didn't do anything wrong in the case. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
All right, well, make sure to keep eyes on that case. Thank you for the update all. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, a former NFL player suddenly found dead in a Florida hotel room. Plus, another former football player is speaking out after his arrest. The case of Vincent Jackson and Adam Pacman Jones after the break. Investigators in Florida are looking into the death of a former NFL player found deceased in a hotel room. According to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, 38-year-old Vincent Jackson was found dead Monday around 11:30 a.m. Jackson played 12 seasons in the NFL, his last 5 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Sheriff's Office says he had checked into the hotel on January 11th, and his family reported him as missing last week. Deputies conducted a welfare check on February 12th and confirmed his well-being. No apparent signs of trauma were reported. The county medical examiner's office is conducting an autopsy. And another former NFL player is speaking out after their arrest. Adam Pacman Jones was arrested for misdemeanor assault Monday in Cincinnati, Ohio. Jones is accused of punching and kicking a bouncer at a club in the head until they were unconscious. He's had several past run-ins with the law, including disorderly conduct charges and pleading guilty to cheating at gambling. Jones played for the Cincinnati Bengals, Denver Broncos, Dallas Cowboys, and Tennessee Titans. After his arrest, Jones went on the Pat McCaffrey Show to explain his side of the story.
I can't really see exactly what was going on behind me because I was talking to the DJ. Now, the bouncer dude came in like, everybody got to get the out of here. Now, remind you, my dude just put him out of the spot that we was in the week before that.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a revenge thing. But at the time, I don't even hear the dude what he's saying because I'm talking to the DJ. All right, so they got whatever going on. He tugged my little brother. And when I turn around, they already on the float. So I separate them. And he said, hey, y'all want to fight? Before you say y'all want to fight. That's when punches and chairs, whatever they was throwing. And personally, Pat, I'm done fighting, bro. Like, unless somebody want to pay me, I'm cool with it. I'll fight any celebrity.
Back for analysis is criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy and Terry Austin. Terry, kicked and punched until he was unconscious. Is Pacman's explanation good enough for you here?
Actually, Brian, it's not. I think he's lucky he's only being charged with misdemeanor assault. I mean, he's been involved in altercations before. In Tennessee, you know, he kicked and punched a security guard. He got in a brawl in Atlanta. He hit someone at this casino in Indiana. I just think that he may have some issues as far as, you know, his physicality is concerned. And he has to be careful because he's a big guy and he could really hurt someone. So kicking someone in the head until they're unconscious, that's, you know, it could have been murder. So I think he's very lucky he got off with a misdemeanor assault.
Yeah, Eklund, defense of others is a defense, but it could have been a little excessive here. When you heard that interview, I personally would have maybe told him, don't give that interview. You might want to shut your mouth, because later on, I believe he actually says, I did what I had to do. And that's kind of frightening when you're talking about such a big guy, right?
No, and I honestly like the interview, to be real honest, because celebrities, especially football players and ex-football players, do you know like how much people just get on him? He actually explained that this wasn't a one-time incident. He's had history with this dude. So when you have somebody who is consistently trying to be, you know, you have this man who is consistently checked by people who are not of his caliber, you know what I'm saying? You cannot get mad if you lose a fight. He was protecting his brother. Thank God everybody is alive. But to say that it was his size, don't start none, it won't be none. So I think that it was an affray instead of like just him being, you know, he wasn't pummeled, he was security. So, I mean, if you can't be security, that's on you. I actually think that he has a good case. I think that it was a good charge.
We'll see how it goes. Thank you both. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, a Wisconsin murder trial heats up as the defense attempts to point the finger at someone else. Plus, remember the Central Park Karen? Why the case is now being dismissed after the break. Charges have been dropped for a New York woman captured on video calling 911 on a black man in Central Park.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
I'm being threatened by a man in the Ramble. Please send the cops immediately.
The case against Amy Cooper, seen here, was dismissed after completing a counseling program. Prosecutors say they're pleased with her participation, which included 5 educational and therapy classes on racial equity. The misdemeanor charge of filing a false police report stemmed from the May 25th incident over Cooper's unleashed dog. Cooper called 911 saying that birdwatcher Chris Cooper had tried to assault her. The claim was not true. Chris and Amy are not related. Here to discuss community service for Amy Cooper is defense attorney Eklund Mercy and co-host Terry Austin. Terry, I can say this. As a public defender in New York, if this wasn't a high-profile case, is exactly how most of my cases, at least, end. Actually, she might not have been charged if this wasn't high-profile. So do you feel that this case ended appropriately?
You know, Brian, I don't think it ended appropriately. I don't think counseling is enough. I know the judge said that this was restorative justice and she needed to be educated on the harm of her actions. Yes, I agree with that. But I also think she should have done a little bit of jail time because she filed a false report. court. And I think there needs to be an example here. This could have ended so very differently. And I think we need to make sure that others are not going to do the same thing and think that they can get off. I think she got off easily.
All right, Eklund, what do you think? Is this justice or did she get off easily? Too easy, maybe?
I actually think I think it was justice because Mr. Cooper didn't want to press charges. He made that very clear. But the prosecutors went forth and didn't let her off with just the slap on the wrist. She had to do the classes. I mean, we cannot fix racism with just one Karen. I'm shocked, though, she wasn't charged with animal cruelty because it seems like that dog was being hurt pretty severely. But I think that justice was served. We can't have her be a representative of all races, and I think that Mr. Cooper's unwillingness to really prosecute actually just, it came out to a good thing. I mean, she didn't get a slap on the wrist. She had to take classes. She had to be inconvenienced. I don't think anybody will ever give her a dog ever again, or, everybody knows her from now on. I think the damage has been done with regards to this case.
Yeah, there could be non-criminal damage from social media, her name being put out there. I can see that as being a form of punishment the prosecutor would consider. I see that. Thank you both. When we come back, testimony in the trial of a man charged in the murder of his wife, 8 years after she was reported missing. Her son takes the stand next. A Wisconsin man is on trial for the alleged murder of his wife of 24 years. Prosecutors say he had the means and the motive, but they're still missing a body. Victoria Prokopovitz was reported missing on April 25, 2013. Investigators are unable to find her remains, but arrested her husband, James Prokopovitz, in 2019, after they say he confessed to killing her. Prokopovitz has since recanted and says his wife was suicidal. The victim's son was living with them in 2013 and said the couple got into an argument the night before she disappeared.
I remember confrontation about Jim not wanting to go to the dollar store for, I believe it was a tablecloth, roughly around 5-ish. They both seemed a little agitated. He didn't want to go. I believe his words were, "We can get it later," or "tomorrow," or something like that. And my mom would always complain to me, "Oh, tomorrow never comes."
Okay. And did you see that that was frustrating to your mom?
Yes.
Now, at the time that you're having dinner, do you remember if Jim is drinking any alcohol?
Yes.
What was he drinking?
A beer.
Was it common occurrence, daily, weekly, monthly, that he would have a beer?
Daily.
Investigators say they've ruled out Edges as a suspect because he has an alibi. But on cross, the defense pressed him about possible inconsistencies in his timeline.
Do you recall what time that you left the residence?
6:30, somewhere in there.
Do you recall giving previous testimony in a previous hearing that you got a text message around 8:30 and you were still at your residence at that time?
I don't recall that, no.
You went to your friend Rosaline's house to buy weed, is that your understanding?
Yes.
Did you smoke any weed at that house?
Yes.
Do you know approximately what time you got to your friend Rosaline's house that evening?
Probably 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Did you immediately smoke weed or did you smoke weed later in the evening?
Later in the evening?
And do you know approximately what time you started that?
No.
Do you know approximately the time you left Rosman's house?
3:30, 4 o'clock.
And you testified, and they're direct, that you got home around 4 a.m.
Yeah, around 4 a.m.
Okay, so around 4 a.m. for you is between 4 and 4:30?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevance.
Your Honor, I'm just trying to get a timeline here.
I think he's entitled to a timeline.
When you got out of the truck, you saw your father, and he said, "Mom is gone."
Yes.
And you clarified it, says, "What do you mean she's gone?" And he says, "She's missing." Correct?
He didn't say she's missing.
What did he say specifically?
I woke up and she's gone.
Okay.
Back to break down the Wisconsin murder with no body is Eklund Mercy and Terry Austin. Eklund, a previous ruling says that the defense can't point the finger at the son and Wes Edges that we saw because of an alibi. But aren't they kind of sort of maybe doing that anyways, and shouldn't they be allowed to?
Yeah, they should absolutely be allowed to. As a criminal defense attorney, I have the right to a thorough and sifting cross-examination, and I believe that alibis are a fact question that are reserved for the jury. You cannot take that away from the defense. The defense requires justice. So if, he's already smoking weed, he's already on there, we have the right to impeach our witnesses. And if his alibi sucks, his alibi sucks. And the defense has a right to attack it. I think that the judge ruled wrong and should have allowed them to be able to point the finger at the son.
Interestingly enough, they actually agreed to it, which makes me really curious why the defense would do that. Now, Terry, during the defense's cross-examination, it was very interesting. He actually pulled out, not from this witness, but the victim's sister, that the victim, Victoria, had, and I want to make sure I get this right, because I was in the chat rooms with Addie and our viewers who watch the trial live, that she has dissociative identity disorder. How did you feel that came out, and how can that be used in the defense's arguments?
I think the defense is doing a great job here. I think that so far, you heard one objection there, but that was from the prosecution. I think so far the defense is allowing most of this information to get into evidence because he knows and he understands that regardless of what you call the mental illness, that it will help his case because it will show that there was a tendency here for the victim to have suicidal thoughts, etc. So I think so far most of this is helping the defense.
All right, we'll see how it goes as it continues. Eklund, Terry, thank you. And thank you for joining us here at Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.